I'm really disturbed. I'm really bothered. I'm really pissed off the NCAA has allowed this to happen. March Madness is fabulous. There's no doubt about that. And the Cinderella stories are spectacular. But what we've have happened, the NIL, the transfer portal, I just think it's ruined the game. It's taken the joy out of the game. I don't think I'd want to be a head coach anywhere in college basketball with a crisis you have to deal with, the chaos you have to deal with, the dishonesty, the tampering you have to deal with almost on an hour by hour, day by day basis. Do you know the transfer portal opened on Monday? John, in 3 days, we've had 1,305 players leave their teams, put their name in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
1,305. It's utterly ridiculous. It started San Diego State. I was really disappointed in Nick Boyd, how he handled and not handled this thing. I talked about it earlier in the week. He disagreed with me. But I said, just scratch the word loyalty out of Nick Boyd's resume because he was here and he praised the place, Aztec for life, and then he was gone. And it was obvious to me he was negotiating with somebody while they were preparing for the NCAA tournament. Magoon Gwath is a little bit different set of storylines. That's young developmental player who became, to a degree, a star. He had always indicated that I'd like to stay here, or maybe I'll look at the NBA. And Magoon Gwath then decides that he's opting out and there's going to be a payday real quick for him. But he comes from a different set of circumstances. Young kid, Sudan, dirt poor family in Houston. Kids traveled a rocky road to get to this point. So I don't begrudge him this window, but I feel bad for Brian Dutcher, who poured all of his resources and his energy to help this young man mature. Dutcher has just gotten a bad deal. It's part of the system. And now the third one. Miles Byrd has indicated he's filing for the NBA draft to go through the evaluation process. No beef with that as long as he comes back. He's not ready for the NBA. I'm not even sure he's ready for big-time ACC Big Ten basketball. Let him get the evaluation. Let him come back. But if they lose all three, this is devastating. I don't know how it's almost like you're going back to square one. So I feel really bad for Dutcher. But it's not just here. It's freaking everywhere. Mountain West Conference has just had a bad week. Richard Pitino leaves New Mexico. Pitino takes the coaching job at Xavier. Xavier is a better situation. Xavier is in the same conference with St. John's, where Rick Pitino is head coach. How cool a storyline is that when the St. John's Red Flash are going to face the Xavier Musketeers? But Richard Pitino did a hell of a job. And I say congratulations, Nick Medved. I mean, he put together 3 phenomenal years at Colorado State. He takes the Big Ten job at the University of Minnesota. But the problem is that a whole pile of players have jumped into the portal. And that's a real bad look. Of the top 7 players who could return, 5 are already in the portal and are leaving, led by Donovan Dent from New Mexico, Wyoming star guard. It's just a tough loss for this conference. So we got that storyline to talk about. Pac-12 conference, story behind the story. We were all excited about them snaring Gonzaga. Basketball only. Well, I did some digging. Gonzaga is going to get a full share of whatever the new TV contract is in the media package for the new Pac-12. A full share, even though they don't play football.
Wow.
Now, as a byproduct of that, Gonzaga also got a clause. They don't have to pay any shares that other schools pay into the football pool. Each school has to pay certain expenses for the conference in a football pool. Gonzaga is excluded from that. So that's 2 pluses for the Zags. However, Gonzaga had to give up any revenue that football creates in a conference. Bowl games, everybody gets a slice of the pie if a Pac-12 team goes to a bowl game. If anybody in the new Pac-12 gets to go to the playoffs, there's a huge chunk of money in that piece of that pie. Gonzaga won't get any football-related revenue. So that was the give and the take of Gonzaga. We're still waiting to see what transpires with St. Mary's. I guess the burning question, although they like the Gales and they like the Bay Area representation and Randy Bennett, have they ever done anything big time? Have you seen them in the Final Four? No. Have you seen them in a Sweet 16? Nah. So that's a big issue. Do we really want them? And the Pac-12 is wrestling with the problems at UNLV or financial problems. There's leadership problems at Nevada, Las Vegas. New president coming in the front door, constant churn, changes of ADs, losing coaches, retaining people. So Vegas, being in Vegas sounds sexy, but Vegas from a business operation problem, that is still out there. Wild story in the Pac-12. They have to find another football playing school. One day they're talking St. Mary's coming to basketball. Next day they're talking maybe we should ask for a waiver from the NCAA that we don't add another football program immediately. Third day they're talking about who to pair. Now the conversation is, money talks, people walk. Now the conversation is maybe we just turn around and we take Rice, which has money and academic credentials, and Southwest Texas State, which has money. And those schools, I was told, would take a less than full share of whatever the new TV contract is. Maybe we just add those, and then we're in the Texas market. Although I'm sorry, Dallas-Fort Worth, I don't think watches Rice football. They watch Texas Longhorn and the Texas A&M Aggies and maybe the University of Houston. I don't think Rice is a big draw, but that's what they're talking because of the problems at Vegas. They're talking we just do Rice and Southwest Texas State because they do bring some different things to the equation, and they put us in the state of Texas. Stanford, we talked about this on Monday. They fired the coach. Andrew Luck, the legendary quarterback, former star in the NFL, is the general manager of the football program. It's, in essence, he's almost running the athletic department. He fired Troy Taylor this week. Taylor is involved in 2 separate sexual harassment, toxic workplace investigations, mistreatment of 7 to 9 women in the athletic department and in the football program. Troy Taylor, 3-9, 3-9, gone. Andrew Luck hit the eject button right now. Be very interesting to see who he can get coming in the front door. They don't have a great tradition in football more recently. And I think the other thing that's really bothersome, I don't know from a resources standpoint, if they have enough to compete upper echelon in terms of NIL money, et cetera. So Andrew Luck but he's the decision maker at Stanford. And here's the epitome of what's happened in college hoops. I talked about what I don't like about what this thing has become in terms of business. St. Francis of Pennsylvania, Catholic school, been to the NCAA tournament, was in the play-in game last Thursday, folded. Dropped out of Division I. It's just announced because they can't compete. The landscape's changed so much they can't compete financially. St. Francis is dropping all of its sports effective at the end of the spring term to Division III. Sad commentary about what it's become. I'm done preaching. John, you want to pick some topics off you asked the question. This is on you. You put all these topics on the table.
Yeah, hanging around with you, there's always a lot of topics. Okay, first of all, you are so overreacting to this whole NIL thing. Okay, first of all, yeah, it's disruptive. Of course it's disruptive. You said, 1,500 kids are in the portal?
1,305 so far.
Yeah, so a lot of those players are guys that were on the end of the bench that weren't getting playing time. They want to go somewhere else. A lot of them aren't going to go to D1 schools. They're going to go down, play at a lower level, or they might even just drop out of basketball entirely. So it's not as big of a crisis. Now, granted, as a fan, it's horribly disruptive.
You don't think it's disruptive to a coach?
Well, them too. But I mean, this is just life. People have the option of quitting a job and getting hired somewhere else. The upside for the player is so tremendous to have, whether you're going for the big money, like Donovan Dent's going to likely get, or Magoon Guath might get in the portal, or, if you just want to move on to another opportunity. These are huge advantages for the player to kind of cash in on what their value is. And for us as fans, yeah, we're disruptive and we're going to lose the players. I think we just need to adapt. The pendulum needs to swing back a little bit to put a little bit of guardrails on it, and we'll be fine.
So you won't have a problem if, after all the defections at San Diego State, what would your tone be next year if Brian Dutcher gets put down because the Aztecs win only 12 games last year because they've lost all their players to the paydays? So these guys, because of player free agency, can go anywhere and everywhere, and now he doesn't have the resources to compete. So So what's the atmosphere going to be at VA Haas? You're going to be sitting in the end zone seats, painting your face black and red, and half the place might be empty if they wind up going 12-19.
You're Mr. Doom and Gloom again. Okay.
I'm just dealing with reality.
No, I mean, obviously everyone's being affected by this. And Dutcher is a magnet. He will attract players that want to play for a big time coach, that know they can be coached up. Maybe they're a player that's excellent offensively and really needs good defensive coaching. Dutcher will still get good players. Okay, now, will he be able to compete with an NIL budget like that Duke University has or something? No. I mean, that's like a whole other thing. But they just got to, like, for example, this transfer portal during the Sweet 16 weekend. That's just stupid.
Same thing in football. Let's open up the transfer portal during the bowl games or during the actual 12-team playoff. Where's the common sense in that? Where's the leadership? I mean, the NCAA's hand has been forced to do this because of all the player lawsuits, player free agency.
Yeah.
That does not mean you can't have a transfer portal that does not open the window till after the championship game is played. Why are they allowing players whose teams are in the NCAA? One of Michigan's players entered the portal while his team is preparing to play in the Sweet 16. Why is a calendar of events in the middle of March Madness? That's beyond stupidity.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so there's a lot of disruption. They've got to kind of figure this out. But the end point is that players now have more options. Players don't have to sit a year to play. Players, if they're not getting what they think, the respect from the coach, they want more minutes. They have options to go elsewhere. And best of all, they're going to make some money. And I think that with all the money that's flowing into this sport, they deserve a share.
Mr. Capitalist has spoken. You want to comment anything else, or have you just thrown everything else in the garbage can because you believe what you believe?
Well, I do believe that, and I'll tell you what, the Stanford thing is interesting because you're right. They haven't been really relevant in basketball like forever, but I remember they had the two brothers, the twin brothers.
Yeah.
That were there. They were terrific. But
well, football's been down, even though David Shaw did a really good job for a chunk of years.
Yeah, football's had other moments there at Stanford, but you're right there in Silicon Valley, and there are a lot of the guys that are just loaded at Silicon Valley are graduates of Stanford University. So you think there'd be a way that they could fund the program, get some good donorship going, and it'd be great to have them back. Like in the Pac-12, the Bay Area. This Stanford is an important part of the Bay Area.
I concur with you. And I think Andrew Luck will find a flock of really good people who will be candidates to replace Troy Taylor. Why Troy Taylor would act the way Troy Taylor acted is beyond me in this era of what you're supposed to do in terms of respect. That's a huge issue. And for him to do this, I mean, I read a piece of the litigation that indicated the people that testified against Troy Taylor, because they went to human resources and got nothing accomplished. It's like Stanford covered it up, walked away, didn't react. And one of the women called him an equal opportunity asshole. And his mistreatment for 2 full years as head coach.
EOA.
Yeah. So anyhow, Andrew Luck is a magnet. I think it'll be, I'm intrigued to see.
Well, he waited too long to respond to this. And I know there's been a reaction in the Bay Area of people that are upset that they didn't take quick action. So it must be that Luck has a relationship with him or something.
Well, I mean, Luck has only been on the job maybe 3 months. And I do think that any course of that type of investigation, you must give opportunity for the other person to respond. You just can't hit the eject button and fire everybody unless you go through, I think it's called due process.
Okay. Well, we got Doge going on, man. Anyone can get fired at any time.
You promised me you wouldn't bring up politics on this podcast.
Okay.
All things. Hey, that's what we've been talking about today. You're invited to be part of this podcast. We're going a lot of different directions.